What's up, everybody? My name is Demo, and real name is Omid, and I live in the Bay Area. And I am a dance game aficionado. I love dance games. Been playing. What's up, Tizza in the chat? Good to see everybody in the chat. We're doing this live, by the way, on Twitch right now. It's I don't know, June 5th, 6:30 p.m. And I'm lucky tonight. I've done a few of these interviews now, both on Twitch and YouTube so far. Tonight, I'm thrilled to be joined by a good friend of mine, and they're an incredible dance gamer as well, a credible aficionado of the game as well, student of the game, one of the top players, recently podiumed at an event in the Groove FA Fantastic Attack Accuracy event, the thing we both do and love very much. And yeah, I want this conversation with them tonight. Viva la Mu, no spoilers, right? To really be all about the full tournament experience. So tonight, I really hope to get into kind of prepping for tournaments, playing in them, excelling in them, including game theory and how you're supposed to deal with the modern rule sets, which are banning and similar to kind of fighting games, like you ban and pick things that you want to be in your favor. So we'll get into kind of those strategies and ultimately running tournaments as well. I'll let Viva la Mu kind of handle some of the intros there, but no, without further ado, I really just want to thank you all for being here. There's a lot of you now live on Twitch, so appreciate you. And if you're watching this later on YouTube, appreciate you as well. Hope you get something out of this. And with that, I would love my guest to go ahead and introduce themselves. Thank you for being here, Steven. Viva la Mu.
Yes, as just mentioned, I'm Viva la Mu, or Steven. I've been playing dance games since like 2003. So when I was in 6th grade, my end. So that's, gosh, like coming up on like 2/3 of my life at this point. Kind of crazy thinking about that in hindsight. But I've been in the competitive dance game scene since 2007 and running the Storm series as the event organizer since 2016 when Josh Tiger had previously ran it. And I think at this point, Storm is technically the longest running multi-game event at this point. I think the other contender would have been 8 on the Break events with Kings Champions of the Coast.
That's amazing. I can't verify one way or the other, but that is an incredible stat if true. We'll go with it.
If true, yeah. Crazy if true.
Awesome. Well, yeah, like I said, it's so great to be able to chat with you. One of the understated things of tournaments definitely has to be how often you get to see your friends. Like the shot I put of you in our in like the tweet that I was just like telling people about this convo. Yeah, it's from Red Note from the last event I saw you at. And so I was reflecting on that, like as we were agreeing to like do this for the community. Just like, man, it's so fun going to tournaments just because it's like you get to see all your distributed friends that you rarely get to see at one place.
Yeah, and it makes it very easy to like see all those different people at once without having to, go visit them individually throughout the year. So convenient.
Yeah. Folks are saying I'm way quieter than you, so let me try to do some balancing. I may have turned Viva la Mu really, really high, so let me know. Go ahead and say some words. We'll see how
Yep.
this is
How am I sounding now?
How are
Hopefully
we
it's
more
very
balanced
quiet.
now? Are we more
Yeah,
balanced?
talk at the same time.
Thanks for letting us know, chat. Thank
Great.
you, Luxury. Thanks for being here. All right. Yeah, so I just think like far and away, number one thing of tournaments has to be just like seeing your friends, but there's so much more to it, right? So I think why don't we start? So I didn't mention this, but I'm a highly competitive person. I'm a highly competitive gamer, and I think that's got to be like the first thing you and I probably connected on. And I think like that's in my wedding party. I think multiple people, Duckamuck, JT, people I met at tournaments and then became best friends with. Do you have any, you have any examples of this where it's like folks you like met at a tournament because you shared this like really cutthroat kind of like I'm going to kill you in this event kind of mentality, but then later on you became like BFFs?
That would probably be Leon Twix
Yeah,
and Hudson Kaze 573. Otherwise known as Collective Team Florida, even
for
though
sure.
only one of us even lives in Florida at this point.
Yeah,
It's the
because we
spirit of it.
don't. That's great. That's great. Yeah, and there continue to be like even more amazing Florida players coming out too. Thinking
Yeah,
about
which is
Squid.
honestly crazy for how fragmented and hard it is to access machines in Florida.
Yeah, yeah. So okay, so let's start at the beginning, right? Why don't we start off by I'm down to go first to give you some time to maybe think about this, putting you on the spot. We didn't rehearse or plan any of this chat, so just letting you know it's all improv. Um, why don't we start out by talking about our like first really memorable tournament experiences? And so, um, I gotta say for ITG, and you Steven, you were asking me a little bit about this earlier, but for ITG, man, like my first ITG tournament experience, I left being so salty. And it was at the Glendale Galleria. And I think it was like maybe the first ITG2 tournament in California or something, or like maybe the second one or something. And I had to go up playing Vertex against Duckamuck. And it's like that is like dude, like talk about like the last thing you want to be doing like round one, round two of an event is like Vertex one, like ITG Vertex versus Duckamuck, who if you don't know is like that is like one of his killer songs like back in the day. I end up beating this fool, but he calls pad shit on whatever, which was he later would go on to admit that it was none of it was the pad at all. Um, after we became great friends, so that was my first tournament experience, Viva Lamu. So curious to get your thoughts and would love to hear about your and was yours just as salty as mine?
Definitely not as salty, but that makes me realize so your first tournament you entered was ITG.
That was not my first tournament ever. That is the
Ah,
first in the
okay.
groove tournament that I went to.
Okay. First in
First
the group term,
ITG
okay.
two. Yep, and
Okay.
like Tizza saying in the chat up here, um, yeah, truth. But yeah, please, my
Uh
friend.
the first like major memorable moment for me was probably geez. I guess it was my first DDR tournament rather than ITG. So I had been huge fans of like Tiger, Strong Bad. They were the ones who put out the Move Over for Supernova video.
Hell yeah.
Um, so I was like slightly fanboying at like 14. Um, and I went to this Tilt Arcade in Jacksonville, which was Storm 7 in 2006. Uh, and I didn't know that Storm had like really crazy rule sets for qualifying and just competing in general compared to the average like traditional tournament. So qualifying was Lamore at Liberté on left. And
What?
yeah,
What?
and and at that point, I had also only had a Max 2 in my arcade in my town, so I hadn't played Extreme yet, and that was not on Max 2. So I obviously bomb it, and I seed into the lower division, which in hindsight, I guess is me technically sandbagging, unintentionally sandbagging, uh, because every match I had up until the top four, which was like a top four round robin, I destroyed everyone. Like it was not even close. But once it got to top four, oh, here comes the crazy rule sets again.
That's so
Um,
whack.
it was you each pick a song, but you have to play it on a turn mod.
Okay. That's
So
honestly it seems like you could kind of game that in your favor.
Yeah, but everyone just picked tens and played them on shuffle. So
Gamers are
I had,
so unserious, dude.
yeah. So I was just like, okay, here we go, max 300 on shuffle. Let's do this.
And so how'd it go?
Uh, I end up getting fourth. Like everyone just destroys me in that because I have no idea what's going on. But
Yeah.
that was a good takeaway
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
what storms would be like in the future.
No kidding. No kid to say the least. That's so great. While you were like pausing throughout your story, I was trying to think about like my first ever dance game tournament experience. Full stop. I don't know. I'm too old. Like I honestly am having trouble remembering. Um, it's tough. I really don't know. I
It
really don't
is.
know. Maybe that was it. Maybe the ITG one was it, and that would have been like '04, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, I started playing the game. I guess it's important to note for every dance game type of video, just to give everybody who's just seeing us for the first time a little bit of context. So I started playing dance games in 2001, which is 23 years ago at this point, and it was on a third mix or like a solo 2000 cab, if anybody even knows what that is. Um,
Um,
and so I grew up playing with a legend, Bimani Ruler, who actually later went on to be one of the core people in developing like customs for home use. He had some famous charts that Chris has VODs of on his channel, and Chris is arguably the most famous dance gamer. I mean, maybe not arguably, like maybe he literally is, objectively. Um, but yeah, so he was my buddy, like my arcade buddy. There were like two or three other friends we had. We lived in neighboring cities and grew up playing DDR together until Extreme. Extreme is kind of when we all kind of dropped the game ish. Um, Arcade Infinity is where we went when we wanted to the fabled Arcade Infinity. If anybody in the chat, anybody on YouTube's heard of that, that's where we go to like really treat ourselves because like that's where all the best players would be. And so I got a chance to meet some of the top players when they were in their prime, but I never really like got a chance to compete with any of them. But yeah, I've loved dance games since I started playing them. I just took a long break, 20 like I would say 2009, 2010 until 2016 until Ace came out. Just for personal reasons. So yeah, just like career, life, whatever, relationships. So yeah, so I think that's kind of like my dance game history. And now I just play in the groove in my garage at home, which is where I'm at. And folks like Steven, help out running running this event that I have merch of. And yeah, just like putting it so that it's available online for people to check out and play in their homes. So that's what I do now. I don't, and sometimes I travel and get to see my friends at events that are, I guess, worth traveling to, which is a loaded concept, which I want to get into with you later. But that's a bit about my history. What about you? What's kind of like your overall kind of dance game? Obviously very abridged dance
yeah,
game
yeah,
story.
yeah. So started out with good old DDR Ultra Mix 1. When I was introduced to it by my friend and his mom playing it just at their house randomly, invited
Yeah,
me over. Competitively, uh, started with DDR, as I mentioned earlier, and then as soon as I found out ITG existed, I basically mained that. Uh, and I went to this Andretti throw park down in like Palm Bay, Florida. Uh, got like really acclimated with the crew there. Then after a couple storms of DDR and ITG, I like randomly connected with Flash through a YouTube comment on an ADM Styles video, and then
amazing.
and then got him to go to Rocky Mount 8, and then
Or he
basically,
destroyed me.
oh, that was such a crazy event.
Yep.
But then from there, I've basically mainline been competing in ITG with like very mild dabbling in pump, and then on and off maining DDR here and there. Like especially when like Ace came out, I feel like that was really the renaissance that brought a lot of people who were the extreme OGs back.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah. I remember being in awe of back in the time, yeah, like Jeff Lloyd, Chris, and I guess Spencer from New York, all these people that would constantly put out videos. And yeah, I think like I wanted to beat them. I wanted to be the best. And so I'm curious to hear from you, like, has dance games like been your first calling? Like, is that like your in terms of like competition, like a like the hunger to like win?
I
Is that
think the
like
hunger to
yeah,
be like a top player, yeah.
like one of the
Otherwise,
best, like period, like point blank, like one of the best?
yes, one of the best, period. Otherwise, if I've been competitive at something, it really has just to be like the best in my friend group or like just like going to locals and being like really good or competent enough to like talk about the games and like shit talk friends.
Yeah, yeah. I think we're really similar in that respect, and I think that like it's fun to set your own goals and achieve them. And I think that like setting 50-50 goals, going back to the I think combo with root reducer probably, really fun. And like I did that this year for ITL. I I hit the 50-50. How do you get the over
Mhm.
under on something that's point 0.5? You don't.
Yeah.
But I did. I got the I got the 50-50. Like I achieved one of my two goals. It is what it is. But yeah, I so anything that like so I think your the thing your answer was interesting, right? So like so let's say not one of the best. What other games, hobbies, activities, anything in your life like have you really enjoyed being competitive at?
Yep. So growing up, I know a lot of us were like TCG players growing up, but I would go definitely weekly for like the Pokemon TCG and Yu-Gi-Oh TCG, and
Mm-hmm.
I was really into that growing up, competitively, playing against people rather than just like doing the trading and whatnot. Uh, and then I was huge into Halo through Halo 3. Would I wouldn't say like I was ever like good enough to be like even semi-pro at that, but I would like constantly be looking, like looking for random teams and to play like 4v4 matches, things like that, which is well above like the random person in matchmaking. Uh, and then otherwise, I did play Super Smash Brothers Melee, actually going to tournaments off and on. I had Gravy as a roommate uh, for a little bit, and he would bring over uh, like all the big names in Orlando area for Smash Fests at our place, like Plup, HBox, Wizrobe.
That's
So that was
crazy. Yeah, yeah.
uh, I remember I just this is slight tangent, but I remember just getting like really drunk one night and asking Pluppa and Colball about like when you're like playing other characters you don't main, are you like trying your own style with that character or emulating another top player's play style with that character, but with like your mind games?
Sure.
So
What
that
was
was a
the
fun
answer?
conversation.
What was the answer?
They were just like, I just play my own style with every
That makes
character.
sense.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how dance games work too, right? I think like you always got to do your own thing, and not look at the step statistics, step statistics. Oh my god, that's hard to say. Yeah, so I think that that's always it's not about what the other person's doing; it's about you doing like the absolute max, right? So it's kind of interesting. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely I feel like a lot of people maybe don't know this about me, but I was really into FPSs pre dance games, so that means even pre 2001. So yeah, as middle schooler, high schooler, I was like Unreal Tourney 2K4. Never like did anything related to like pro gaming, but played a metric shit ton of Unreal Tournament 2K4, and then Counter Strike 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, a little bit of 1.6. That's when Steam came out. I have a 6-digit Steam ID. It's kind of that's how old I am, chat. So
Oh
old.
wow.
But yeah, I think like I played in the first season of Cal P. Cal was like the cyber athlete amateur league. So definitely like I love, and just my love of dance games to date, right? This long 23 years. Like I just love the twitch reflex kind of gaming. Like I love accuracy. I love perfection. I love having 5 bullets in a deagle and killing the whole team with 5 bullets. Like there's nothing more satisfying than just perfect headshot, perfect headshot, like just it's like that is poetry in motion. So yeah, so dance games are no similar. Like quinting something is like wow. Like quinting something is like I love to get your take on this. Like I think it's actually quite amazing how good not only so the two games that I follow in dance games are DDR and ITG. It's insane how many good players there are in ITG now and DDR. Like I think both like there's been some kind of crazy like shit in the water where everyone's drinking it and everybody is just like being insane. Like everyone's just insane now. What's your take on what's going on?
Yeah, I don't know what explains it, but I if follow the trends of other games where they had like significant skill increases very fast, I want to say it's the access to top players sharing their scores on crazy songs, things like that. So people can just ingest content very easily without having to play the game now too. So top players are also basically assist ticks. Uh, so there's just a lot more opportunities for players to get better faster than there used to be. It also helps that I think the content um, is both harder and the timing windows have gotten smaller, so you can attack the game at both angles at both times.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe this is a good segue. So, what's maybe let's start macro and go deeper. So, what's like a normal dance game event, like con or like dance game tournament at a high level, like not specific to the game. What do you do? Like, what is it like generally?
Yep. So at a very high level, the typical dance game event is you either doing some sort of like pre-qualifying or seeding, like right before the event, going to the event, showing up in a most of the time it's either a big ballroom or like around one arcade. Uh, so
Unfortunately,
your comfortableness may vary very greatly uh, at the venue, but
yeah.
you're all there, and you're then going into different tournament formats. The current tournament format that we're running, just at a high level, is on average just card draw, where we do protects and bands of drawn songs from a list of songs for the event. Otherwise, uh, it's usually run as like wave format now. So you'll show up to the event and basically be slotted for a certain time to come and play against three plus other players, depending on how big the wave is. Uh, Advance to the next wave, stay longer, and eventually you just keep playing matches until you're in the double elimination bracket. From there, those are going to be like the hardest songs being played. Uh, so stamina can be a really big factor for players at that point. And more recently, I think as we've been getting older and playing at more events at elevation, cramping has been, been a really big factor uh,
Yeah.
for for players recently. So
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Yeah, we can get into that in a bit. Yeah, for sure. Thanks for the overview. Yeah, and I think a lot of people going back to like a lot of people may not know this kind of vibes. I was actually oops this one. I was actually like really pro DDR player like I don't know a couple years ago. I basically it took me like 2-3 years to learn the game again. And then I came back swinging. So I gotta say, like DDR tournaments, um, yeah, it's been interesting having not gone to them lately. So I can't say a ton about what's going on, but I have not only gone to like traveled in a plane, etc. So has Viva Lamu to go to ITG events in the last year. I've also hosted them myself, and yeah, like Viva Lamu was alluding to earlier, Storm is something that's coming up very very soon. So a lot of exciting ICG stuff going on. There's also a lot of DDR stuff going on, but yeah, I want to talk. I think the card draw stuff is fascinating, and I wanted to get into a little bit of that. I think a lot of people are really um, you know, new to competing overall. I'm sure some people in the chat, some people on YouTube, they are considering going to a tournament for the first time, or, um, you know, maybe they're going to go for the vibes and not really compete just so they can feel it out, right? So there you go. We got some people in the chat. So I think it'd be great. First ever tournament next month. That's awesome. I think it'd be great to get some questions from the chat. Like anything you want to know, you're here. We'd love to answer your questions. But I think that like one thing that I want to share is how like every event that I've been to has been a little unique, and I think that that's a really good thing. I like that a lot. But the one thing that I feel like, and actually, maybe this is important context, I run a dance game TO server, Discord server. So if you are a TO, hit me up. I'll get you in there. We share resources and talk about running events. It's great. Um, what I don't appreciate is how often I hear folks running tournaments like at a loss, or like not even like like trying to break even, which bugs me. So there are a lot of different topics that I want to get into. But yeah, I think like let's talk about dance game tournaments, and just I just want to like prep everyone with like, at least for me, ITG has definitely been like my area of expertise, but so that's what I'm ready to talk about. But yeah, Steven, where should we start with this? Do you want to talk about like, yeah, where with dance game
Yeah,
tournaments? Where should we go to the chat first? Should we kind of lay it out?
yeah. Oh, this is such a loaded topic with so many places we could start and still segue into the other topics.
Yeah,
uh, Honestly, do we just want to start with card draw
yeah,
and
let's
go
do
from
that.
there? I
Sure.
think that's what sparked this initial want of the discussion, anyways.
Yeah, so card draw is like the typical way the basically the levels of the game are selected, right? So you think about like in something like a fighting game in Smash, right? Maybe okay, Dota or League of Legends, right? There's multiple characters, heroes, champions, whatever that you can select in the beginning. There's a pick ban phase, so teams basically agree disagree on what the optimal strategies are. Pretty simple if you play those games, right? Smash fighting games. There's like different like platformers, right? There's like platform fighters. There's like levels that do different things, right? There's like different platforms, number of platforms, size of the level, size of the ceiling, size of whatever, all this kind of stuff that like your character may or may not want these certain aspects of the map. So there's like a ban, there's a pick, Overwatch even. Overwatch. We want to play a push map, we want to play control map, whatever. Like every esport has this kind of thing. So in dance games, and Steven, you talked about this earlier, for In the Groove, we definitely have like a pre-setup stage where it's like, hey, these are all the songs, aka levels, aka maps, aka whatever you charts, aka whatever you want to call them. These are the things that are selectable in the event. So that's like step zero, right? But there's a really cool web app that we've made as a community, like we make most things, that actually lets you do the card draw process. So walk us through the card draw process.
Yep. So, starting out, the card draw process will consist of drawing from a particular range of the songs. The most common example we've seen recently is like tiers. So there's like a tier 1 to tier 10 of songs. Each tier contains like maybe 5 or 6 songs in it. So for each range of the tournament, players will come up and they will filter by the tiers. And for usually everything up to the finals of the event, it's randomly drawing 5 songs from within those tiers. What happens then is based on the seeding, The two players will come up, and the higher seed for the event will get to decide whether they want to protect the song order, or let me rephrase. They will choose choice of protect order, choice of veto order. So if they want to protect first or second, or veto first or second, or uh, choice of pad side, because sometimes players have preferences, or an unfortunate reality of multiple events is sometimes there's a side that is slightly and or much better than the other side, so it's more or less guaranteeing the win by having that side. But anyways, once the players go through that process, the first player will choose one of those choices. The second choice will go to the lower seed, and then the final choice will then go back up to the final seed. So as we're seeing on the screen right now, uh, that's kind of going through the vetoing, grays out the songs, protecting you, especially in the modern day. The protecting will bring the songs to the front of the draw. There used to be a variation of that back in the day where you protected the songs and they stayed in the order that they were drawn in. So there was a strategy around protecting something earlier, or intentionally protecting a late song if you wanted to play something you know was going to still be in it earlier, so you're guaranteed to play that and a solid pick later if you each go back and forth on the songs. But that's getting a little too
Yeah.
nuanced
Yeah.
for now.
I really just wanted to like give people a visual aid as you were describing it, which thank you for doing. Yeah, I just wanted to give people like we can go into like I definitely will. I want to talk about strategies for doing all this with you for sure. I think yeah, mostly just want people to see like yeah, there's like literally just rows of like 5 songs, and like you take turns doing the stuff. So like Steven said, so yeah, so uh Chris for life, the goat, just rated us, so appreciate you, Chris, and
Thank you. Thank you.
welcome all raiders who are joining us. I am Demo, and person to my right is Viva Lamu. We are both, you may have heard of us, you may know us, you may not. We are both competitive dance gamers, and play DDR in the groove, though lately mostly just in the groove for me. Um, and yeah, we're
No,
talking about
same.
tournaments. Yeah, pretty much same. Yeah, we're talking about tournaments today. So dance game tournaments, competition. I can think of no more inspiring individual. If he's still here, shout outs to Chris. Like Chris is someone who inspires me every day to continue taking my hobby seriously, because Chris is unflappable, unstoppable, unbreakable. Like it is like actually disgusting. So really appreciate just living nearby and being able to call him my friend.
Agreed.
So so tournaments. Let's actually, this is a good segue, right? Let's imagine Viva Lamu. You are facing Chris for life, right? You're a competitive player. You're not just gonna like fall over and like be like, oh, I lost, right? You're gonna go at him, right?
Oh, yeah, especially at
So
this point.
talk me through your thought process, right? Yeah, especially at this point, right? So talk me through your thought
Sure.
process. Let's say it's ITG. Let's say it's on the ITL songs. Chris is playing those, right? Like we just have a tournament on the ITL
Yeah.
songs.
And
Um,
admittedly, I think the DDR Tools site might have Storm up on there. Storm 2024. So we could
ITG.
let's do an example Storm draw.
I see Storm 2023.
Storm 2024 here.
There's a update. Hang on. Update. Yeah, got it. Got it. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so just walk me through like what are you thinking as you have so many weaknesses. So as you are getting let's go from like pre-match to
Yeah.
card draw to match to post-match, like walk
Yep.
me through your emotions and kind of game how you're approaching the situation.
Yep. So I'm looking at the bracket and seeing that I have to go up against Chris for life in top eight,
Yeah,
first round.
on a refresh list.
Uh, so, uh, my first thought is okay, I'm going against Chris, and he has the least amount of weaknesses out of any four panel player I know.
Ever.
Because, yeah, ever. Anything he thinks is a weakness is just a deficiency for how top level he is, respective to him, not the other players. uh, so that's my first thought. My second thought is okay, what am I good at and consistent at enough to want to protect against him and put up a good fight? Because part of me, unfortunately, at that point, is slightly doubting myself that I can win, but I still want to put on a good show for everyone else. Uh,
Which
so
is one of the
then,
unspoken. I just interrupt you really quick. Like I think that's one of the unspoken parts about tournaments is like it's a show, it's entertainment. Like I think we need to embrace that more. Please continue. I think that's a great thing to come back to. Yeah.
yeah, no problem. So then I'm just sitting there deliberating in my head. Okay, what can I possibly? What's a good draw against him? What's a bad draw against him? What I do I consider saving my stamina on? Just BSing around so I have full energy to go in and attack the songs I want to effectively try and win against him.
Mm-hmm.
Which similar strategy against basically everyone, but I'm hyper focusing on the fact that it's Chris in the back of my head at that point.
Which I've
Which,
learned is an advantage. You want to be the Chris in this situation. Imagine if every match you can be like you can have that advantage over someone.
yes. And I'm just gonna call it out now. I think I'm in like chances and tax head a little bit just because I've beaten them repeatedly at events. And
Mm-hmm.
that does factor into their decision making against me, which we'll get into a little bit later.
Yeah. Okay, I'm with you so far. So
Okay.
let's imagine I'll be the TO. So y'all come up to me for the card draw. I don't even know what the eligible charts are here. Let me switch this scene so we can see what's going on. So
Oh, yeah. I think they did the ranges. We have like a lower mid upper, etc. So they just equated like ranges to different tiers.
all good. We're just gonna do a random
Do a
five.
random draw. Yeah.
We're gonna do a random five, and Chris is the high seed. So here is the draw here. Here, right?
All right. I'm looking at that draw and like, huh. Okay. Honestly, there's enough straightforward, easiest stuff that if Chris slips up, gets like two or three extra whites, we're not playing on the 10 millisecond window, so he might drift around a little bit more.
Sure.
Uh, I'm like, okay. I actually feel kind of confident that even if I don't win, this will be close.
Yeah.
The only song that I don't want to play against him definitively in this set is Cymerg because that one is semi inconsistent for me, and I just assume Chris is gonna get like in the 20s on it, even if he gets like change.
Let
So
me.
that would be my go-to veto.
Yeah. I'm gonna add. Make sure I have this scene here too, because I wanna talk with you about this. I think it's quite interesting. Doing it live. Window capture. Chrome. Cut all this crap out. Shibidi bop. Yeah, I definitely follow your logic. And so I think that one thing people do not do enough in events is perhaps think this deeply about literally anything. I don't know. Oh, where'd it go? What did I do? I'm sorry. Sorry, chat. Okay. Yeah. So, like, just going through what you just said, I think is quite interesting, right? Because it's like what I heard in what you said is that you are actually like quite comfortable with your strengths. You're quite comfortable with your weaknesses. You know kind of where you have the best shot. You know what your game plan is. You have a game plan, right? And so
Yes.
now the trick, right, and that is like not revealing that information. I think anybody who's read or watched TED Talks or I don't know, studied leadership or studied negotiation in any capacity should know, and if not, I'm teaching you this, should know that the person that withholds and possesses the most information is the most powerful person in the room. There's nothing, you gain nothing by revealing information. Absolutely nothing. In fact, it's a net negative. You lose by revealing information. So I think that this is at this point, and I want to there was a comment about this being like D&D, but for dance games. There's role play I want to do with Viva La Mu is I know how cerebral of a player Viva La Mu is, and I think that the difference between top players and not top players is thinking critically. Right? Um, and I think that like thinking critically helps you practice better. Thinking critically helps you like not mess up in tournaments, right? Uh, like so I don't know, maybe a hot take, but that's my take. So but I'd love to hear like some of your so your goal right now. Let me just play back what I heard. Right, your goal is to save Mr. Electron. Probably thinking about the 9 and the 11 too. Let me go back to it and kind of
Yep.
avoiding the harder stuff, right? Is that kind of like that's your game plan?
Yeah, and in the back of my head, I'm sort of neutral if Diablosis Naga like is in play or not, because I'm good at it. Even if I lose on it, it's going to be a good show for the crowd. Even if Chris gets like 2 on it.
Yeah. So how are you gonna do that? How you know what do you okay? So what do you think Chris's game plan is? Is it just the opposite?
uh, he's I would and Chris, you're in chat.
Yeah,
You can
you could tell us,
you,
Chris. I
you
mean,
can you can tell me if I'm right or wrong with how I assume you would function. Pick the charts that I've seen before. Yeah, that would be my number one
right.
logic for you too. So knowing that you have a quint on, I think Mr. Electron, and I think you probably have something stupid on Field of Hopes and Dreams, and Cymerg was in ITL last year, or was that? So Chris had to have
I
played
think
that
so.
one.
I think so.
Uh, yeah, so I'm pretty sure Chris has played everything in this draw. Maybe not Moony Eyes,
Yeah.
actually. So uh, if he hasn't played Moony Eyes, that's the one he is obviously going to veto just because he hasn't seen it, and he would probably want to, yeah, kind of do the opposite of me, and
Yeah.
his protects would probably be Cymerg or Diablosis Naga.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so isn't this super interesting, right? So in a tournament setting, both of you top players, Viva La Mu v I Am Chris for Life, both of you know each other's game plans. Both of you know each other's strengths. Both of you know each other's weaknesses. So then what happens? Like what how does it like again, imagine if Chris is high seed, we go with the like this what even is standard today? It's like snake order, you get to pick if you veto first or second, and then the other person does the flip, the inverse. Is that right?
Yeah,
So
Rip just started a new variation of that where they
okay.
have two like a 7 card draw with 2 vetoes and a protect, so it goes veto, protect, veto.
Okay. So, well, I mean, for this example, again, this is just an example. So, like, how do we keep it as simple as possible? Maybe say Chris is first
Yeah.
seed, so he gets to protect first or protect second. We'll say Chris gets to protect second.
Yeah.
Um, and so, what is the advantage in? Imagine the first thing you get to do in the sequence of steps, right, is to
Yep.
protect. What is the advantage, disadvantage of going first or second protect? Which again, this is effectively a song pick, right? I pick this song
Right.
to play for us.
So I effectively personally see no reason to ever do first protect ever.
Yeah,
And
agreed.
that is because why give up the chance for the other person to protect the song you would have protected? That just gives you another opportunity. That only helps you with that circumstance.
Yep.
And honestly, that is the same exact logic I have for vetoing.
Yeah.
So,
I totally agree with you, and I think it's super interesting. Chris, I love that this became a three-way thing. Chris, do you want to join our call? I mean, it's probably complicated at this point. Yeah, Chris, why would you veto over protect? I'm curious. I'm curious to hear why you would veto second over protect second. I think that's another great point too. Like, do you have an opinion, Steven, between those two?
yeah,
Okay, so that's Chris's explanation there.
because it's more obvious what I would protect over veto. Yeah, that makes sense. Uh, well, I would always also veto second because if I know what the other person also knows what I'm bad at, I want to see what they veto against me as well.
Mm-hmm.
On top of them also potentially vetoing what I would have vetoed, which would give me effectively a second veto option.
Exactly. Exactly. Again, it all goes back to information, right? Like it's I as a researcher, like so career wise, this is what I do is I talk to people and I learn things. That's basically what I do for a living, and so I find it really fascinating that again, you both have played with each other before. You know each other's scores. You know strengths and weaknesses, but yet somehow you're both expected to enter this situation and you're both trying to win, right? You're both trying to do the optimal thing that lets you win. So it's quite interesting. Like, how do you think this all feels compared to back in the day, where we would literally in matches, right? The de facto method of playing was high seed picks, pad or song first, pad or then like or the song order, and then you pick a song, pick a song, and then it's just shuffle. It's just like random. So yeah, what do you like more? Why? I'm curious.
So, as an event organizer in 2024, it is objectively more fair to have the card draw format uh, to give players more chances at a fair match per se.
Mm-hmm.
If we go back to pick random days, it was effectively okay, skill set versus skill set. If you were only we had like a team called Team Nines uh, on the East Coast, basically, that was only players who could basically just consistently quad all the nines on ITG 1 and 2, which, or like get crazy scores on like Lipstick Kiss and whatnot. So it would be people like that versus everyone who plays against them picking like a 13. Uh, so you would just have wild swing matches where uh, the it didn't really matter. You might as well have just started the match by hitting random.
Which that was the few times I think I probably entered an extreme tournament or two. Like back in the day, just it wasn't competitive, so I don't remember. But Random Caprice was actually really fun, which is just four random songs, and you don't get to change your speed mod. So it's kind of. I think that made it interesting. I think it was fun.
Yeah, I almost considered actually running that instead of Extreme Pro for the community event Storm this year.
Yeah. Great question. Oops, got cut off a little bit. I can let me. New to tournaments, back in Pick Random. Could you pick the same song every set if you had a song? Not every match. Usually there were some rules in place. Like sometimes you got songs back or whatever. But no, you couldn't just pick the same song. There was usually
Um,
some. I guess depends. I don't know.
the oldest form of tournaments, I don't think you could always ever pick the same songs, but they did have it so if you someone picked a song on you, but you beat them on their pick, a lot of people would just reverse pick that same song on the person.
Okay, so again, like I think it's quite interesting. Like if we go back to the Chris versus Viva La Mu example, right? Um, what's going on there? Like, I think like is Chris winning on your picks? Are you putting up a fight? Like, what? How do you expect the match to play out?
Let's see.
Like,
I
we can do the protects and stuff. I want to close the loop
Yeah.
on this example because I think it's interesting. So let's
Chris,
say
are you
Chris does
still
second
here? Can
veto.
you
Chris does second
Yeah,
veto.
second veto? All right. So
So you're on the
I'm doing
hook.
second. Yeah, I'm second protect then.
Oh right. So Chris is on the hook. So I think he said he would be probably Simurg or not or Diablosis.
For protect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, if he's really trying to seal the win hard, he's going Cymerg.
Okay, he says. I guess too, but he says Diablosis. Okay. So then so Chris protects that, then you get to protect something.
Okay. Chris, I'm also assuming you're like actually fresh for the tournament, not recite reading these, but yeah. Uh, all right. I would protect honestly Moony Eyes against him because that has the least amount of random choke points. You can pick up a lot of random white fantastics in all the little bursts in Fields of Hopes and Dreams, and Mr. Electron has, even though it's a 10, it does have a few choke points that if you're not fully warm or like your like leg is just a little too stiff for that jack at the beginning, that's just gonna like throw the match right there
Mm-hmm.
against someone like Chris.
Yep. And so again, this is I'm kind of taking this really slow because I feel like with folks who have never done this before, it can get really overwhelming, right? So what's happened so far is like we've hit the draw button. So there's literally one button on this web app, which by the way, anybody right now can play with. I'm gonna pin it right now. So anybody can play with this. This is a card draw app, ddr.tools. And we have gotten to the point where there's five, again, the row of five. It's a best of three, very typical for dance game events, especially ITG. And each player has selected a song. And so at this point, I think there's a great time to pause because now both of you are rethinking the strategy, right? So it's like, okay, we know the first two songs are Diablosis 13 and Moony Eyes 11. So now the next part of the strategizing is what's going to be, assuming we each win our picks, right? Just like in any other competitive event or game, assuming we each win the thing that we say we can win, wager we win, right? What's going to happen on song three, right? And Chris chose second veto. So how do you reconcile?
So my obvious pick here, based on what we were talking about earlier, is vetoing Cymerg,
Mm-hmm.
which the reverse case would be the vetoing Diablosis Naga here. Actually, wait. No, if he left Diablosis Naga on the board, I would veto Fields of Hopes and Dreams instead.
Why is that?
Because of the random choke points in Fields of Hopes and Dreams from if you just happen to not be consistent at, you know, 30 isolated 30-second kind of things, then you're done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially against someone like Chris, because Chris on an off day is still as consistent as like a top eight player, like a random top eight player on their like really good day.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think that's so interesting. Yeah, I think something that we don't really talk about enough in dance game events because the best players can get their top scores so often. Um there's something about like the expected variance, I guess, in like a performance. So like on shaky legs, it's actually similar to telescopability, which is something we can talk about maybe a little
Yeah.
bit. But I think it's like, yeah, like shaky legs is going to be shaky legs 15 is going to give you a different score every single time you play it. Like unless you're like literally the top 3 best players in the world, right? But if you play Mr. Electron, you could probably get the same score plus or minus 0.1% every single time, right? It's just like
Yeah.
not like for the three of us, it's not that hard, right? It still takes effort, but it's like it's not that hard. So really interesting, quite interesting. So Simurg, and then Chris, what are you vetoing?
I would assume he would veto Field of Hopes and Dreams.
There you
Oh,
go.
dang.
Well,
Oh, I didn't know you don't know that one at all.
again, I think it's interesting to assume that like assuming song knowledge is equal, but really what I was trying to get at, but it's all good. That doesn't matter. I think really what I'm trying to get at is like there's a lot of strategy and thinking, and you don't want to like reveal your hand. It's like you don't want to show your pocket aces. You want them to guess. You want them to raise, and you want to re-raise all in. Is kind of like
Mhm.
that should be your like thinking basically. Um,
Okay.
if anybody plays poker, that's
Okay. Then in this situation, mentally, when I see Chris leaves Fields of Hopes and Dreams on the table, then I'm like, oh, this is interesting just because I know Chris made a comment that he doesn't like. Well, it was more moving 30 seconds, but this has a lot of isolated 30 seconds, so I know he doesn't like those as much as other things as well, like
yeah,
just in the back of my head.
for sure,
So
for
I'm not
sure.
feeling like I've completely lost it by any means.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Super super interesting to like just do this exercise. I don't know. I think what one funny thing specifically about battling Chris in tournaments is like he tends to get really lucky with getting a song that he is like mastered beyond belief. Um like Max
Max
Unlimited
Unlimited.
this comes to mind. I've gotten many a DM from Chris where it's literally no words. It's just the screenshot of the card draw. Maybe he'll say Lameo. Um,
That
but I mean,
comes
it's
to
just
mind with like Dave and Hudson always getting deckers in their draws too.
yeah. No, I think there's something to it. It's like when when streamers play like ARPGs and get the crazy like tier 0 drops, day 1. Uh streamer client RNG. I think that's totally a thing with like top players. Like you just have the card draw RNG just completely figured out. You just enter the tournament and you're already guaranteed to get that one song that's like your silver bullet. For shame.
Accurate.
For shame. Um, so I think we can maybe talk a little bit about hosting tournaments. So I think that yeah, feel free to like I guess if there's anything you want to talk about more with like regards to tournament strategy. I've done an interview with Root Reducer, really amazing kind of also old school player turned new school, has been helping out on ITL a bunch for us online ITGers. And yeah, we talked a lot about deliberate practice. So I think that that's definitely a huge part about like showing up at a tournament. If you want to do well, you just have to practice a certain way, focus on your weaknesses. But yeah, anything like regarding to like playing in tournaments that like we totally like just glossed over.
Managing your stamina. I know we were talking about like
Oh
cramping a
yeah,
little bit earlier, but I feel like
totally.
stamina
Like
management
the
is
health
something
aspect.
people, yeah. Uh, for multi-game events especially, I like like Storm, Bite, Eclipse. There's a lot of multi-game events out there. Uh, Panini Fest. So managing how you are actively choosing to protect and veto throughout the course of an entire event matters for a single event. But when you're entered in like 3 or 4 events, you have to realize that's going to take a huge toll
Right.
on you that is basically exponential compared to just your single event that you did. And
Right.
if you're good enough, like a paranoia boy, where you get to top 8 of everything, like you need to remember to stay hydrated, eat constantly throughout the day, electrolytes, etc., rest properly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It was really sad to see like yeah, a few of you guys like just getting cramps at the last like big red note sponsored event. You never want to win a match that way. I've had my fair share of like health stuff happen too, completely on accident, like completely like just randomly. There was a rip I went to where I wasn't, yeah, and I'm not even a multi gamer. I think some freak accidents just like happen. I am a type 1 diabetic, and so my insulin pump, just like that I was wearing on my arm, just like came loose, came off due
Yeah.
to the sweat that you produce when you play dance games, and like fell on the pad. And like it's a little plastic like thing that's on my arm. So if you with your shoes, like with the amount of force we step with, if you step on this thing, it's gonna be like a banana peel where you're just gonna like fly off the pad. So my first thought when it fell down was like, oh shit, I don't want to step on it. I don't want Rinker to step on it. Was who I was facing at the time. So it's just like it sucks. It sucks to like, sometimes your body says no or things happen, and I think that like part of having a good tournament experience is just like not um being too like self-defeating and not like being mentally okay losing, because like when you think about it, there's only two results. You could either win or lose. You can't draw forever. Like you might draw in the match, but you can't draw the match. So 50% win or lose, right? So it's like you got to be okay with that. It's a coin flip. It's not a. It's not
Mhm.
a. There's only two outcomes. So
Yep.
yeah. A lot of questions in the chat, so I want to maybe these are all related to tournament experience. So let's maybe
Yeah,
get
let's
to
go
them.
for it.
Yeah, so I'm happy to have you kick us off on all these, unless you want to kick it to me, like by all means. But yeah, we got one from Goomba Roomba. What do we think about pocket picks? So that's an aspect of tournaments we haven't talked about yet. So going back to that, let me get it back on the screen. New card draw. This thing. So sometimes we can have pocket picks. So what are pocket picks?
Yeah, so pocket picks at the highest level, going through the variations, is effectively you have a song from the pack that you're working with, usually from the playable tiers that you're playing from, that you can swap out from the draw uh, and replace that song with the song that you chose, and it would replace your protect instead of being a protect. You get your pocket pick.
Yeah. So are we pro or are we anti or are we neutral?
I'm personally anti,
Okay.
and
Why?
my reasoning behind it is if I wanted my own pick, I would just play pick random. This feels like we're going back to a slightly diet version of pick random because you're more or less taking out something you may have been guaranteed to lose because this is another like unspoken strategy of the pocket pick. You
Yeah.
can take one of your vetoes out with a pocket protect. So now you have your protect and uh, veto as two vetoes, and you get a free song that you're incredibly good at.
Yeah. It's that kind of critical thinking that gives you the bonus percent that it takes to beat people like Chris. I mean, it's just like, yeah, that's just what you have to do. Like think like that, right? I love that. I think you're blowing chat's mind right now. I think that I'm pro pocket pick. So I think it's quite interesting. And then maybe it's how we approach the game differently, or in ways that we overlap and don't. I don't know. But yeah, I think for me, going back to the entertainment aspect, like I think it adds a lot of fun, like not quite rivalry feeling, but it's just like, oh, like back in the day, no one wanted to face Duckamuck on tribal style. You know what I mean? He would quad it every time.
Oh,
And
yeah,
at that
every
point,
time,
10
yeah.
quads were not commonplace. Like 10 quads were hard. 10 quads were like very rare. Um, Duckamuck would quad it every time. So if you didn't quad tribal style, you lost, basically. Um, I got like the second ever 99 on Go 60 Go. No one wanted to play Go 60 Go versus me ever. People would get like a 95, I would get like a 99, 98. So it's like, I don't know, it's like you just don't win. You just don't beat me on Go 60 Go. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that kind of stuff is good for the game in my opinion. I think it's fun. I think it adds like people can get good people can have the pick random feel like you said, but I would argue that it's a good thing because it's like you get to have that specialization that gives you the bonus percent against someone like Chris, against someone who is unbeatable, right? Like you can, which I disagree with. I think everybody's beatable, but I think it's the idea is like you get that extra edge, which is very shallow. It's like the rule sets I've seen are like one pocket pick until top four, and then you maybe get another one, or even you just get one the whole event. So it's like, to me, it doesn't feel like broken. It feels
I
interesting.
I think the way you use it personally, is why I'm not completely against it. Because yeah, I agree with you on that point. I think the reason I'm generally against it is for how most people utilize it. Is it like just a, oh, it's like they're effectively just like, it's a, I'm using it as a get out of jail free card, not as an effective strategy against players that are above my tier.
Sure.
And I think maybe like there's ways to modify it. Like, just I was thinking off the top of my head, like maybe like you can only use it against a player who is a higher tier, so it makes it levels the playing ground versus like if you're like basically equal players. Like I saw Chance put in chat that the Winter Groove implementation of it was really weird, which I agree. And I actually that actually like really soured me on pocket picks at a high level too, because not being able to tailor your pocket pick towards basically anyone and announce it at that round was crazy to me.
Yeah. 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 Say more.
Yeah, so this I'll just go into my match with Chance then.
Yeah, I think
So
it's
we
great. I think it's
basically
good.
got a random card draw. Like I don't remember what the full draw was. It was like a Metallic Madness zone something, and then it didn't even matter what the third song was, because I'm like, oh, well, we're on loser side, and Chance has a very good chance of beating me. So, all right, I know Chance is not good at rhythms. Optronic, it is. And that was a song that I'm just like really, really good at, and consistent at for like a weird rhythm song. So I just basically had in my head at that point, I'm like, one, it's over, and two, I'm just feeling slightly bad in the back of my head because I'm like, this rule set is BS.
I love that. Yeah. Um, I think, man, it's so interesting. Um, I often think about how much of doing well in tournaments is like being a good tournament player versus like being a good player, like understanding tournaments and how to control the cramping, the mental, the snacking, the hydrating, right?
Mhm.
Compared to being good at the game. I think about this constantly. Like what? Like I'm gonna get to questions in the chat again, but I am fascinated by this. So like, I think that you are kind of bringing this up where it's like this is part of the mental, dude. Like this matters. Like this shit matters a lot. I think.
Yeah, no, it totally matters a lot, and I feel like the only reason I did so well at Panini Fest 2023 for it being at Elevation
Yeah.
was that Michelle, my wife, was there, and she, between every match, would make sure I had water, like noon tablets for that, uh, electrolytes. She was bringing me protein bars in between matches. Like, she was keeping me competitive
Yeah.
and out of cramp territory. So she wasn't at Winter Groove, so I cramped out there. I wonder why.
Yeah. Shout outs to wives. They're pretty fantastic, and yeah, mine has definitely taken care of me at many an event she's been to with me as well. So big shouts to our wives. So that we got another question that I thought was really good from Agent Attorney. What are the best ways to research your opponents beforehand? I think this is really important too. Um,
So yeah,
yeah.
I agree with
How
that.
do we know? Like Chris, we know because he's like the goat. So like, so if you're playing someone that maybe it's deep, maybe you haven't caught their games and they're making a deep run, top 16. You haven't been able to catch any of their games. They're playing on a different machine. Whatever, we'll make it up. Like in that case, you're kind of screwed, right? But
Yeah,
if it right, but like, how do you actually what if you're maybe like a 300K, a 375K player? Like, what are you doing to like look up your ITG opponents?
Yep, so the easiest method with ITL is searching the ITL leaderboard, seeing what they're averaging in comparison to you. And
Yeah.
honestly, even if you can't one-to-one comparison scores that are in the song pack that you are playing against them at to directly compare your scores, you at least can look at the skill sets and the differential between yourselves to at least give some sort of guesstimate for how you will stack up to them if a certain chart comes up. So even if you don't have the full knowledge on them, you can still go in with a general range of how you'll stand up against them.
Just got like 100 followers. I have no idea. I'm assuming they're all bots, so I'm gonna have to do like a mass ban or something of everybody that followed today. So super weird, but yeah, I have a lot of mods here, so maybe it's mods if you want to like, I don't know, ban them all individually. You have my full blessing. Um, I no worries if not. Uh, yeah, Scripps is going through. Anyways, we're super distracted. Really weird, but it is what it is, I guess. Scripps is going through banning the bots. Anyways,
Appreciate you.
never a dull moment in the world of bro mead, I guess. Um, yeah. So I think the macro level like answer is the best way to research your opponents is not to develop any like stalking behaviors. I think it's just to like
Oh, I
go
agree.
yeah, it's just like go to where y'all hang out normally. Um which like for us ITG folks, it's definitely like the ITL season is definitely when everybody's like trying really hard and like putting up putting a ton of effort in like getting good. And so it's like you might be able to assume that given if someone is in this situation in this event, like the scores are going to be representative of like what they're in their best situation going to be able to put up, right? So
Yeah.
definitely, and like there's DDR stuff like Life 4, EMUs, which is like Konami managed, like that just has all the scores. There's like ways of like getting that data. Like I know 3 Ice Cream, yeah, Life 4. I know people talk a lot in there. Which is a Discord server, life4ddr.com. If you want to check it out, hey, thanks for the raid, Heavy Mode, appreciate it. Life4ddr.com. This is another thing you can check out. um, yeah, the SMX app. I guess I'm gonna type a bunch of stuff, so it's actually not super worth pinning stuff. But yeah, that's I think that kind of hopefully that gives you some ideas. What's the is it Statmaniacs? Statmaniacs.net.com? Is that right? Something like that. Nope, that's wrong. Statmaniacs.com. There you go. Pump one, I don't know.
No, I'm losing older questions in chat.
Yeah, there's because there were like 1,000 bots that just followed. I was like I saw we were at 110 viewers and I was like that's amazing, and then I kept scrolling down. I had some chat saved and I scrolled down and I was like, oh, there's just like 100 bots that just followed me. Got it, understood. Anyways, CJ had a question. What's your favorite moment in a tournament? I think that's a really good one. Um,
It's like all time
oof.
moment.
It sounds like it. It sounds like all time moment. Um, you have one top of mind? I would have to think.
That's so hard for me. Because just because there's like such good moments from different eras that have
Mm-hmm.
such meaningful impact in different ways.
Yep.
Like I think Blue Mystic, Kevbo, like basically going back and forth AAAing uh their sets of tens no bar slightly at like Rocky Mount 7 was insane. Uh or Blue Mystic almost 96ing Vertex squared in tournament when he had only just recently gotten the 96 on it. As the first person in the world to star Vertex squared. Uh, back in the day, I think. The only other contender I think at the time would have been Blake.
God, what a crazy
So
player. Oh my god. Yeah, actually, I pulled up the video. Let's see. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it live. I had this set up to be a little bit better earlier, but things change.
that's so young, though.
I cropped them out. Or the camera person never recorded the people. That was the thing. We always recorded just the screen.
Yep.
People don't want to see the movement. People just want to see the score. This is the full video right here. So like, oh yeah, yeah, don't ban Ace. Ace is real. I've met him. This is what ITG used to look like, chat. Look at that.
The average video.
Look at this.
Taking a bunch too.
We used to use actual cameras. None of this newfangled mobile phone technology. Children yearn for the mind touch.
I think there were so many like random notable things from this tournament. Like you mentioned this earlier, and hate to bring it up in the net like that, but like Flash beating you was, I think, a pivotal part.
Oh yeah.
For Flash's growth as basically becoming a top player. Honestly, like I know going into the event, like just talking to him on the side, he was like, "Dude, I'm going up against Devo tomorrow. Like, what the fuck? I don't know what to do." I'm like, just pick what you're good at, man.
Not even, dude. Not even. This dude, now he lives like an hour away from me, and he's still cracked as hell. Yeah, Flash is unreal. But yeah, that's just. Sorry, I was just watching the video. Like, seeing the end of that back in the day, it was just like unfathomable. Yeah, 95 on Vertex Squared in 2008 is like. Are you kidding me, dude?
He was very ahead of his time, in my
Absolutely
opinion.
insane. Absolutely insane. Yeah, big time. Yeah, Blue Mystic, and yeah, and I think Flash. There's probably same event. There's probably
Flash Demo Determinator.
oh, we're just like so modern now. We just Flash and Calumet. I go crazy. Oh my god, that's insane.
Calumet era of ITG was a wild one too, when it predated Mad Matt.
This thumbnail. These thumbnails. Oh, we're so unserious. Anyways. Yeah, I think a future stream, I would love to get a group of I think this is a stream idea I've had for a while. Yeah, Suji, I agree. It's classic. I would love to just get a bunch of like OGs on a Discord call, and just watch videos together. It's gonna be so fun.
Oh, that would be so fun, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, going back to the questions. Beakers was saying pocket picks increase the number. I'll just pin it for easy. What? Pocket picks increase the number of cross match resources you need to manage beyond just stamina fatigue. Do you consider cross match resource management a valuable thing to test competitors on? That's such a great question. So we haven't really talked a ton about TOing. Honestly, I feel like maybe that might be a different video because I think we've just like probably exhausted like dance game tournaments for this convo. Want to keep this like a reasonable, watchable, listenable length, but I think yeah, I happy to say I've hosted SimFile events, which is like creating the content that people get to pick, like people get to play. Songs, charts, whatever. I've hosted those kinds of events. I've also hosted live events where it's like, you just like we talked about, you show up, you play on pads versus other people, etc. For the question doesn't apply to making charts, of course. To the latter, I would say no. I think that like dance games are hard enough as is, where cross match resources are not something I care about adding. Um, the only exception being, I think pocket picks are that, right? Like I think that pocket picks should all. I agree with Steven to the effect that, I don't want pocket picks to be like, I don't want to go back to pick random. I think it's like not interesting. Would I, as a top player, enjoy that? Yes. Would I dominate? Yeah. Because I would literally just like quint everything, and people still can't consistently quint stuff. I feel that I am at the level where I can certain songs I can consistently quint, so I'm not like so sure. But I think having it be a limited resource makes it interesting, and interesting is what I'm after. Like I want, as a TO, I want the event to be a few things. Okay, we're getting into it. Sorry. I want it to be welcoming to newcomers. I want everyone, like the number one thing I want them to be able to say is I had a good time, right? And I don't think that that's conducive to like adding this extra shit to think about. I think like they should be simple to just sign up. You're going to get even matches. You're going to get a few matches, hopefully, so that you can feel like you got your money's worth. And then you're able to say like I had fun. So that's my take. But like, yeah, I think again, the question is just like this cross match resource management, is that good to like test competitors on?
Yeah, I would say I don't think so overall. The only version of that I think would be an interesting variation would be if you had the overall song pack that as songs got drawn out, you just remove them entirely. So then that way your pool gets smaller and smaller, and you're forced into the having to play the remaining songs rather than them maybe never coming up.
Right.
But otherwise, yeah,
It's
no, I
it's
I don't really
interesting.
think so.
It's interesting to think about.
Yeah,
I,
because I think that gets to the level of like it's making it too complicated for both the players and the TOs when we're trying to run a like an event that is basically seamless and as quick as possible when we know it's going to run behind due to various reasons.
yep. Yep. I realized I never answered my most insane or most memorable tournament moment. I think being at KSC when Chris won was really hype. Um, I really like that. I thought that was really fun. Just being with that group in Japan, really fun. Just had a blast. I think one time Fefems won. That was also really fun. Um, for me personally, my own tournament performance, like I think that last year was like I think last year I felt like I had nothing left to prove. I won two tournaments without dropping a song, and I won every event I entered. So I was like, I felt like 2023 was like that's probably like the top of my that's like the peak of my career probably. So I think really highly of it, and I'm just really like proud to have just entered and won everything. I don't know, especially like the undefeated stuff. Undefeated on songs feels really good.
Yeah.
Um, cool. Now I'm all caught up in the chat. Sorry, there was just like, yeah, for those on the, I don't know how much editing I'll do, but for those of you watching on YouTube in the future and not live, we had to deal with some crazy shit. Um, cool. I think maybe we can take this last question from Agent Attorney and then maybe like do some wrap up or something. Want to be mindful of your time. I know it's late over there.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Sweet.
Let's
Yeah,
do it.
thanks for staying up so late too. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Awake because I'm having fun.
Sweet dude. Yeah. So this question that Agent Attorney just hit us up with. So just like the TO side, um, how is it different from a remote event like an in person one? That is a great question. It's a really good question.
That is a great question.
Song selection specifically. I think that's great.
Uh, sure. I guess I'll start on this one. So, this is the answer is going to highly vary among the TOs, but
Philosophy.
uh, yeah, philosophy exactly. But my personal philosophy is what is going to be the most balance of fun while still testing, while still being hard enough to test certain skill sets at a competitive level? So, meaning competitive level meaning so the top players are not going to just tie on everything or it be literally one white difference on everything, while still being hard enough that the mid-range, lower-range players can still have a very fun and feel like it's a worthwhile time for them to have played the song pack and improved at it, be competitive with other players, etc. Uh, the variance to a that versus like an ITL event is ITL or just a like a RPG, something like that. You know, you have a long period of time to grind these songs.
Yeah.
You can start getting unhinged with your content here. So that's why even like the old ECFA days, the content would have like the HS division where it was just all the BS songs,
So
like
horse
the
shit.
most yeah horseshit division. Yeah, exactly. Where it was just like the most BS songs they could find during that era, and just throw them in the pack in. The intent is to not try and get like 100% on this. Like you're just trying to get the best score you can.
Yeah, yeah. I when I so I held a local called SJ Redux or FA was it San Jose Hard FA San Jose or something. It was like
Something like
quite
that.
silly. Um, yeah. So I've done two different like Guildhouse San Jose events. The first one was a big miss because we actually just had like my goal was for it to be like challenging, but cap the challenge at like difficulty 13. So typically, like we go up way higher now. Like folks are doing up to 15 now, which is like really really hard. My goal is to cap it, like just have like one or two 13s. I don't remember at this point. It was a while ago, but have hard tech charts. And the pad situation, the hardware situation, made it like impossible to have any close
Oh,
matches. Like it was not great.
right.
And then so we learned, and then the next event, completely opposite. All easy FA, make it easy for people who are like multi. We were talking about this multi gaming from DDR, also happening there to play in our event, which again is like allows for more people to try it out, see if they like it, try out the pads. So quite interesting to like even in the same year just have completely different philosophies with yourself, just based on like experience and like what you feel like people maybe don't want. So um in person is
Yep.
definitely like less work because you want to have it be like also I think you said this but more concise. You don't like yeah you mentioned RPGs like several hundred songs, ITL several hundred songs, 400 songs, a lot harder, a lot more thought goes into like making everything um stratified and like representative of various skill sets and stuff.
Yep, exactly.
Sweet.
And
Well, this was so much fun. I think yeah, I like kind of like Sean Evans on Hot Ones. Like, you know, tell the people what you got going on in your life. I guess whatever you want to share. Like, I'm gonna cut to you. Like, you just thank you so much. I'll just like before I cut to myself, just want to say huge respect for Viva Lamu as a competitor, as a person. Just I mean your recent podium, so inspiring, dude. Like I think you've put in the
thank
work
you.
and it shows. So thank you for having this convo with me. And yeah, tell the people what you got going on and all that.
Yeah, well, first, thank you so much for having me on and talking to me about this topic. My shameless plug, first off, will be to my wife, Michi's Inc. Thank you for so much for supporting me through everything. You are the goat. Uh, Second, my shameless plug for Storm, which is coming up June 28th through 30th of this month in Daytona Beach, Florida. Yeah, I know it's Daytona Beach, Florida. We all do. But other than that, like the event itself is pretty sick. It's probably in the coolest iteration it's been, bar like 2016 Storm if you went to that one. Uh, Otherwise, yeah, thank you, Sajid, yeah, signups end June 9th. So 6 a.m. on June 9th. 6 a.m. Eastern on June 9th. So if you were on the fence at all, uh, please get on it by this weekend, or else you will not be able to compete. That being said, we do also have community events for female and non-binary for Pump It Up and Step Maniacs, as well as Extreme Pro. Those you do not need to be an actual competitor or buy a competitor badge for. So if you were just going to spectate, why not enter like a $5 event? Uh, and then other than that, honestly, just huge shout out to you, Demo, for having me on. This was an awesome experience.
Appreciate you, dude. Yeah, great. Well, I hope the people got a lot out of this. Until the next one, like always, if you all have ideas of fun people, talented people that I should talk to, ask questions of, hear from, let me know in the comments, in the chat, in Discord. Yeah, until then, see you for more gaming at some point in the near future. Peace. Thanks, everybody.